Thank you for joining me for 5 Minute News. I began this podcast first to help my Vietnamese relatives and friends who were watching the American news and it seemed kind of unclear. Then I also discovered that most of the people around me really do not follow the news. Even the American news. It just passes by because of the way it's presented, because of how confusing it is. And finally, because I remember a valuable lesson to myself. About 3 years ago, I moved from San Jose to the next city south, Morgan Hill. I never cared about what the city council was doing. I didn't even read the free newspapers that showed up in my mailbox. Didn't care. Until the day the city council decided to eliminate my job. And then I thought, well, maybe I should be giving a little bit more attention to the news. Today I'm going to cover one subject, Signalgate. Signalgate is all about the national security leaders of our country using a non-approved, non-cleared commercial application called Signal to have conversations about rather sensitive topics. Why are scandals called XYZ Gate? This goes back to 1972 to 1974 when the Committee to Re-elect a President had broken into the Democratic headquarters. There was evidence that even the president himself was involved in the cover-up. That was constantly on the news, constantly in the minds of voters. And that was in the Watergate Hotel or the Watergate Mall. So since that time, we call American scandals Gate. Wore a brown suit Gate. Her arms are too big Gate. Smelling hair Gate. Whatever it is, we just slap the word Gate to the end of it. Why is it also referred to as Whiskey Leak? This is a play on words with the organization WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is a website which releases information which is embarrassing to agencies or governments. Since their founding in 2006, they have embarrassed Democratic administrations, Republican administrations. Mostly they embarrass intelligence agencies. They've also embarrassed our allies. They've embarrassed our enemies as well. We also called it Whiskey Leak, because one of the central figures in this scandal, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, does like to have a good time. He does like his drink. He does like his whiskey. So let's talk about this signal chat. This was a They were discussing an attack on the organization called the Houthis. Who was on the signal chat? Very first one, named JG. That stands for Jeffrey Goldberg. He is a magazine editor and by no means should have been included on a discussion of military planning. Nobody should have been using the Signal software for military planning, but definitely Jeffrey Goldblum should not have been included on the group. The next name on the list on the left, Michael Waltz, was the director of national security. And he's the one who put together this group. Further down in the middle of the left-hand side, you see our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. On the right, you see TG, that stands for Tulsi Gabbard. That's the director of our national security, another person who should be enforcing our confidential and security laws, not breaking them. Right below her, our esteemed Vice President, J.D. Vance. And then last name I'm gonna point out is Steve Witkoff. We will come back to him in a little bit. Pete Hegseth's reaction to this when this broke on the papers. First, he said it's fake. He was saying this even after the information was already confirmed by the White House. That was a bad look. Then he attacked the reporter. What does that have to do with the issue whatsoever? The National Security Council was discussing sensitive items on a commercial not cleared software. Third thing he said was nothing classified was posted. This was a really dumb mistake on Pete's part because the following day, Jeffrey Goldberg posted showing that Pete had revealed targets that were going to be hit, when they were going to be hit, what weapon systems were going to be used to hit them. Also, Pete had shared similar information on another Signal chat with his wife and attorney. And finally, Pete had been caught installing a non-secure dirty line in his Pentagon office. In other words, he had no intention whatsoever of keeping classified information secure. Other items on the subject. Steve Witkoff, who I pointed out before, was in Russia using a non-secure civilian cell phone while this information was being shared. We know it was a civilian cell phone because a a government phone will not allow you to download Signal on it. Michael Waltz, the national security head of national security, was transferred from that position to the U.S. ambassador of the United Nations. Waltz will need to be vetted and approved by the Senate within 90 days. Chances are his participation in Signalgate will be questioned during this procedure. So this will come up in the news again. I hope you follow along and are informed and understand it when it comes up. One last topic. After I prepared all these slides, it was released that the Inspector General is looking into Pete as having destroyed and uh, covered up some information pertaining to this subject. Thank you very much. I hope you'll join me on the next 5 minute news. Please leave a like. If you disagree with the way I presented things or the way I've emphasized things, by all means, go ahead and leave a comment, even send me a short video. Your ideas are very, very welcome here. Thank you.